What is going on, YouTube? Working on another custom today, and today I will be working on, oh yeah, check this out, the Dixie Challenger. First released in 1981, it was designed by Larry Wood, and its first run went from 1981 to 1986. It was retooled and re-released in 2008, and you can still find new versions of the Dixie Challenger being released today. One of my favorite castings, it's a heavily modified version of the Roger Dodger and the bifocal. Very cool, and as you can see here, this one is very well played with. Not in terrible shape by any stretch of the imagination, but definitely ready to be freshened up. This is based off of the 1973 Dodge Challenger, as evident by the front grille. My assumption is this was Mattel's attempt to cash in on the hugely popular Dukes of Hazzard TV show that was running during the 80s. And in 1981 and 1982, the release had the Dixie flag on it. But in 1983, they did away with the flag. I'm assuming Warner Brothers may have had a conversation with Mattel about some copyright infringements going on. But nonetheless, I've already drilled out the posts on this, so let's take it apart and see what we're dealing with. Oh man, this is one dirty car. Definitely seen some time in the sandbox, I'm sure. But that's all right. We'll get her all cleaned up. This glass is in pretty rough shape. Think I can save it. And the interior is looking pretty good. Not beat up at all. It's a good thing about interiors being inside the car. They don't get the brunt of playtime. But this one was definitely outside at some point. As you can see, the wheels are all rusted. The axles, anyway. And they're pretty chewed up. And if you can't see it, maybe if I can get it to focus in there, there's a rock stuck in one of the wheels. So, very good candidate to give new life to. Base is in decent shape. The chrome has kind of faded away a little bit, and but it's straight and no major issues. So that is half the battle. Well, first things first, let's go ahead and strip off all this paint and get it ready for a new paint job. Looks like the citrus strip is doing its job. It's actually a pretty cool look. I should just leave it like that. Some modern masterpiece. All right, I was able to clean off all the paint, and let's take a look at this body. It's actually not in really bad shape, but there are a couple areas that are going to need some attention. Like this, that's a pretty good gouge right in there that I'm probably not going to be able to file away. More than likely, I'm going to need to use some putty to fill that in, and then sand it down to make it look flush. There's a couple other spots here and there, but nothing super major. I think we'll be all right, but looks like the back end here is pretty beat up. So I'm going to go over it with the file, try and get it all smoothed out, and make it look a lot better. It's the prep work that counts, that makes a paint job look good, and this is all part of it. So all I have is just a little file. I picked up a set of about 12 files over at Harbor Freight for like $7, and they come in really handy. So you just start working away at this back end. You don't want to file away in one spot too long, otherwise you'll make it even. So I just start moving along and just trying to make it flush. Some of these other little dings and dents and stuff can be sanded out pretty easily, or primer can fill up some of these little holes a little bit, and you don't have to worry about getting them out. Yeah, this is going to take a while. So I went over the car with some sandpaper and filed down some rough edges and whatnot. I didn't have any putty, so what I decided to use was some JB Weld. Put that on there. I need to let it sit up and cure for a while before I sand it down. When I sand it down, it should act and be similar to if I put some putty on there. So hopefully it works out. And yeah, body's looking in pretty decent shape. Once that JB Weld dries, I'll sand it down, make it smooth, and get some primer on there. In the meantime, I think it's time to start working on this glass. All right, let's see what we can do with this glass. It's pretty filthy, but we'll clean it up with some soap and water and a toothbrush and actually see how bad a shape it's actually in. All I'm using here is some dish soap. I try and use something like Dawn or something else that's a degreaser to get all the grease and dirt and grime off there. So it's looking pretty good. Let's dry it off. Check that out. Doesn't look bad, but I think I will still use some gauzy agent on there to make it look really good. Well, that's not too bad. I've seen worse, that's for sure. I'm going to use the flits and get it polished up, and then I will go over it with some glass coat gauzy agent, and hopefully we'll have a crystal clear windshield. So the windshield's all cleaned up, and we are ready for the gauzy agent. This stuff works amazing. I've used it a couple times, and it really makes this plastic windshields and stuff look brand new. So it's pretty easy to use. Just put on my little 99-cent store clips I got here. Just dunk it in. I let it sit there for a little bit. Bring it out and let the excess kind of drip off. And take a paper towel. Just catch the corners. And let the excess drip off into the paper towel. You don't want this clumping up, otherwise it may be a little bit difficult to get back in the car. Up here I'm not really concerned about it because that's not going to be seen. I'm just more concerned about it fitting correctly and there not being a big old blob on the windshield or the rear window. Kind of like right there. And you have all the drips kind of figured out. I put on a piece of paper and cover it because this stuff will attract dust, and if you got any dust or lint or stuff laying around, it will attach itself to it and ruin it. And just for reference, here's a little before and after. You can see actually how amazing this stuff is. All right, I think it's time to get this all put back together. As you can see, I didn't really do much anything with the interior. It's not going to really be seen, and it's kind of fine the way it is. The glass, I was able to bring that back to life, and the glass coat gauzy agent is pretty amazing stuff. Between that and the flits to polish it up, it comes out looking pretty fantastic. One thing though, I did all this work on this windshield and rear window and got it all cleaned up, and then realized after I painted the car, this might not look too good on it. But that's kind of where we're at. I thought I might be able to use the glass from a Roger Dodger, but apparently the back window is a little bit bigger on this than the Roger Dodger, So it didn't quite work out. Oh well, maybe in a future video I'll show how to tint glass to kind of match the paint and body style that you're going to use. And for the base, I just covered it with some flat black. And I was going to use the Molotov pen to highlight the bumpers and stuff, but I kind of like the whole blacked out look and everything, so I think that's pretty cool. And I put some new wheels on there. These are pretty much the same wheels I used on the Corvair. They are from Treads 164 Custom Parts, and I really like them. I just used some brass tubing for the axles, as this one's not going to see the track at all. I figure it's fine to put those on there, and since it's pretty much just going to be sitting on the shelf. So with that, let's get this all put back together. All right, well, let's see how it all turned out. Oh yeah, check this out. Pretty cool. I'd say that's a very interesting color. Quite honestly, my whole point in doing this custom was to test out this paint. The paint is Duplicolor metal cast paint, and this is kind of like a yellow, so I thought it was kind of cool. A little bit different. I'm wondering if I would have used a different primer, since I went with the silver primer. This stuff is supposed to be kind of transparent. If I'd get a different color from using maybe a white primer or something like that. So maybe on a future build. I just kept this one real simple. Just went with the Challenger RT stripes. And that's about it. So I think it looked pretty cool. I'm pretty happy with the way it turned out. And interesting color. One thing I mentioned earlier in the video was this gouge right here in the roof of the car. And I did fill it up with JB Weld, sanded it down a little bit, made it all smooth, and painted it, but I screwed up on the paint. So I had to strip it all down. When I stripped it and repainted it, I forgot to fill that back up. So, my bad on that, but either way, it still looks pretty cool to me, and it was a fun little build. Let's go take a couple closer looks at this. And here's what it started out as. A very well played with Dixie Challenger. Probably one of the most iconic Hot Wheels of all time. And here's how it turned out. I'm really happy with the way it turned out. I really like these Duplicolor metal cast paints. And I've used the red, blue, and orange in the past. This was my first time using the yellow. And the lighting isn't the greatest in these photos, but turned out pretty well. I have a build coming up where I use the same paint, but I use a white primer. I think you guys will be pretty impressed with how it comes out. It looks completely different than how it turned out on this card. It's much brighter, but still looks pretty cool. And as most of you know, I'm a huge Dodge fan. And I really like the RT stripes, and just kept this one kind of simple. And I think the wheels and the paint and everything really go together pretty well on this one. And a huge thank you to Dave Akers for the awesome diorama background that this is being photographed on. Very impressive. Go check out Dave's Instagram page and his YouTube page, where he actually shows you how you can make these dioramas yourself. I don't have near the talent Dave does, but very, very awesome. Thank you again, Dave. I appreciate it. So, there you go. My first build back after about 8 months or so. But I got a few builds coming down the pipe and getting back into the swing of things. So, thank you guys for watching. I appreciate it. And we will see you on the next one.